All right. Hello. Welcome to the only place I will ever forcefully skip watching Konsuke Takeshita wrestle to talk hockey. This is Nick. I am the current guy behind Kane's Prospects. A lot of you have seen my face from time to time in places, and a lot of you haven't. Obviously, everybody knows Matt Soma. Everybody knows him. He is the guy who ran it before me, who has now gone on to other things. But unfortunately, the sickos cannot stay away forever. So now we have Matt Soma back for a few times. And hi, Matt.
I was gonna say people have probably seen too much of my face, so that's fine, right?
Never, never. All right. Yeah, this is an idea because this is developing hurricanes because the After Further Review series is becoming incredibly tedious to get game film and incredibly tedious to chop up. And I know Matt has some thoughts about that because I know he did a lot of that as well, where he would just get game film, chop it up, find good stuff, and post about it. It's incredibly tedious and tiring. It takes a lot.
Yeah, and so story time. Back when I was like first doing this, so this would have been like 2017. Yeah, it's like the right after the Canes drafted Natchez and Listerine, and it was like a pretty Euro heavy draft. The European hockey games were on while I was in my earth science class. And I would just watch Martin Natchez and Ito Listerinen in my earth science class because, of course, as one does. So that's how I got started doing the video. And I at that time was not skilled enough with the computer to pull the video. But it was so tedious trying to tweet while watching the games while also trying to understand what the hell was going on because for somebody that was just starting to get into prospects, like European hockey was so different to me.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I totally understand the video issues.
Yeah, that's been especially now since I'm now in like college. Because you said 2017, I was a sophomore in high school. I am a
I'm old.
the
I'm old.
timeline doesn't add up, but COVID COVID happens, and now I'm in college. I'm still in college. I'm a junior, and it's really funny to see like myself do the same things. I'll be in the student union and then go to a class that I have Tuesday, Thursday at like 1, and I'll just be on my laptop watching, today was a prime example. It was Torpedo versus Dynamo Minsk, and I'm sitting there watching Nikita Artamonov and Igor Velmakin rot on the bench. And I'm like, all right, this is awesome. And am I paying attention? Am I passing the class? The paying attention part, maybe. The passing the class, yes. So that's the most important thing, obviously. You gotta pass the class. But yeah, it's just yeah. I wanted to bring Matt because everybody likes him. He was the one who kind of don't do that.
I don't know about that.
He was the one who kind of he was the first person I saw that ran the account. I don't remember the person before him personally. I know Matt does, obviously, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pat
So
Clark ran it before me,
that
and
was
really like shortly after, especially like around COVID, especially, he just kind of disappeared and did his own thing. And God bless him, got off of Twitter because the rest of us sickos can't. So
no,
yeah,
never. It's a blessing because it's fun, and it's a curse because it's horrible for the mental health. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, and that was the first introduction to anything prospect related, and my whole thing came from I got really into prospects, and for some godforsaken reason, the first prospect I ever, and I truly mean ever, watched multiple games of film on before ever going to a Charlotte Checkers game was Anthony Honka because I saw what he was doing in his. I want to say it was like his draft year or his D+1, and he was doing like he was playing really well or points wise. He was putting up good numbers, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I wrote an article for Cardiac Kane about Anthony Honka in like 2020 or 2021. And that was my first like full like all right, I think I can do this. Obviously, I want to know how Matt kind of how did the prospect stuff lead you to where you got now, and how much fun has that been?
so when I started the Canes, sucked with a capital S. The first draft I remember paying attention to was the first Ron Francis draft, because like at the time, right, it felt like a turning point for the organization. Like, you know, Jim Rutherford clearly was not getting things done anymore at the time, and you know, we can look back on it and laugh, right? But at the time, you know, the 2014 draft and hiring of Ron Francis, like that was a really big deal. So I started following those prospects a little bit. 2015 is when it really started to kind of progress, because you know that year we had so like I totally blanked on his name.
I was gonna say you're going before I was even on social media, so you're
and I was like, this is so Sebastian Aho was the only U20 point per game player in Liga for like the past like 20 years or something like that. And then Nick Waugh had a really great year. Noah Hannafin was obviously in the NHL, but we also had the emergence of Jacob Slavin and Brett Pesce in that same year. So then I was like, oh, this is like drafting and developing. Like that's actually really cool. Started kind of blogging about it 2016-ish, just on my own and like through various channels. Started a blog that's long since bitten the dust, called Calm Before the Storm, where we just kind of wrote about whatever we wanted.
Oh my god, it's kind of fun because I actually remember that. I remember that place.
And it existed and was very fun for a little while, but it definitely was not what I wanted it to be. And you know, with the prospects account, I was starting to, like at that point, I guess in 2017, I got the prospects account and just kind of became like a obsession with me.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm a night owl, and most of my classes were probably didn't start till about 10 or so. So I was able to stay up and watch, you know, like the WHL games, like Kane's deep cut here is when like Brendan DeYoung was a prospect of ours.
Oh my god, he's still playing hockey in Europe, I think. I'll see him.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I'll see him pop up from time to time, and I'm like, oh my god, do I recognize that name? And I'll look and I'll be like, yeah, I do.
There's always like one or two where I'm like, oh yeah, like Rasmus Rissanen playing with one of our guys last year. Like, yeah, Rasmus Rissanen, that is
he's a real
NHL player technically, by if you could count playing on the like early 2010s Hurricanes on the defense.
I mean, that's technically if you played in the NHL.
But yeah, so like watching games like that is how I became like, you know, just kind of obsessed with it, right? Did a brief stint with Dauber Prospects, covering Nashville. Nashville was who I covered, which was actually kind of like a crazy time to cover them, because it was like Dante Fabro was there. And there were a few other guys that have gone on to have at least okay NHL careers, or, you know, be like up and down between the NHL. And then just smart scouting, and then I answered a post on LinkedIn looking for scouts for the Express, and here we are.
Yeah, you've worked your way high. Is it director of player scouting, something like that? Director of something?
Yeah, it's technically director of player personnel.
It was one of the two mix-up words.
No, it's fine. The title is really just like, you know, I oversee the American scouts plus our European scout.
Yeah, I just like right before this, I saw the Coquitlam tweeted that the kid getting the invite to Slovakian World Junior.
Yeah, Leo Epriesi got invited to I think it's in New Brunswick this year, where the camps all are, because I think that's where the World Juniors are going to be.
That's one of the things I should probably start studying, because it's in like a month, and this year specifically, Canes are gonna have a lot more prospects than last year, where they had Vondras, who played one game and
won them a medal.
Felix, yeah,
Felix also. And Vondras won them a medal.
He did. I remember that specifically because I was pissed off that Hrabal was starting every game, and then Hrabal played okay, and then Hrabal got pulled, and Vondras won the game after only giving a goal. I was like, all right, that's fun.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so Leo will be going there. Obviously, we hope that he makes it.
I'm rooting for him.
The downside is that we're down a defenseman for like a month
Oh
if he
yeah,
does
I
make
forgot
it.
about
So
that.
you know,
Yeah, I
it'll be fun.
forgot about that. Yeah, thinking about like Canes are gonna get probably Badinka, probably Voulet. I don't know. Chicago, the Wolves are going to be a really interesting one to see if they actually release. Because I think under Sorum, he's 19, so you think he can still do it?
I
I don't
think so.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think Nadeau could still technically do it, but again, eh. And if they release him, they release him. If they don't, he's getting AHL time. I don't. It's not going to hurt me too much. So yeah, now you're with Coquitlam, and you handed it over to me, the prospect account specifically. I think I know the answer, but why the hell did you choose me?
So I had been thinking about, especially when I first got the job with the Express, I was able to kind of do both things simultaneously. It wasn't really that hard.
Yeah,
I was able to watch my region, keep up with the prospects. It didn't really overlap a whole lot. But I was in the back of my mind, I was like, if this keeps progressing and becoming a thing, I'm not really going to be able to do this for much longer. I was already starting to get a little, you know, I wouldn't say lazy with it, but definitely like, it
I do
wasn't my
remember.
primary focus
I
anymore,
was gonna say I do remember a few nights getting a Matt Soma DM on formerly Twitter, still call it Twitter though, and he goes, "Hey, can you cover the account for me tonight?" And I still value those because I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I like that."
Yeah, and like some nights it was just like I definitely didn't feel like it. Other nights it was I had stuff going on. And I think, I wanted to have somebody I wanted to kind of test and see who could handle the responsibilities of being as big of a sicko for prospects as I am.
So you're telling me it was more than just me there? Oh my!
No,
I was
it
gonna say.
it really wasn't, and I lucked out. Number one was the only thing I
Yeah,
needed to really.
you found a. I think what year was that? 20. It was 21, 22.
23 was my last
Oh yeah!
draft.
Wow, I was shooting the gun.
So it was probably 2022 when I talked to you.
Yeah, so you found 22. I was in community college still, and I was probably what was I doing before then? Oh God, probably just working a bad job, but I
I
was
was gonna
still.
say it was a long time ago. It feels
Yeah,
like eons ago at
definitely
this point.
is.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was one of those things where I was like, not to like find a successor, but to find somebody that will like, to hand the reins over to, because at the end of the day, like the biggest conviction that I had while running the prospects account was, like the prospect coverage needs to be free. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
there's a lot of paywalls, there's a lot of paid content. I tried doing extra stuff
yeah.
um through Patreon for a little bit. Didn't work. It's just a very niche thing, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. We're a
That's
small
where,
market. I get it.
yeah, that's kind of where I feel like I've personally found like a nice groove or a nice little place with Substack because it still gets a lot of attention, obviously, from people that like the Canes prospects, and they have a feature to where you don't have to pay well anything. You can have like a monthly thing or just like a donation if people really want to and they like it enough. But at some point, I don't like. I never expect anything. I love Caden's prospects, and I'm happy to do it for free. Obviously, money is money, of course.
Right.
It's hard to just say, "Oh, I don't care about money." Like I'm a college kid, it's one of those things. But also, I don't have to be like I need money, so it's kind of nice to have this Substack. And yeah, it's been really fun running the prospect account. Obviously, I get to talk and interact with a ton of awesome people. It's also led to, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I personally have been called out in my journalism class twice for the prospect account, and it has scared the crap out of me both times. Because I'm not even like doing anything bad. In that class, I'm genuinely trying to pay attention because that's like my major. And the professor will just be like, I think the last time it was just like, who's like, just like self-made journalism, and he looks directly at me. I'm like, oh God, okay. And he's like, Nick, you kind of do that, right? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. No, I had to kind of explain like the whole Kane's prospects thing, and he was like, "That's cool, yeah." And he definitely still didn't understand it, but it was definitely weird to be like, "Yeah, I talked about Kane's prospects. It's kind of fun." So yeah, obviously I love it. I'm very happy I get to do it. It leads me to watching, the deep depths of Russian hockey at 11, and there's no way. There's an SK 1946 game tomorrow. I don't even think Timur Cole's going to play because he was with SKA today. But they have a game at 4 in the morning. You think
I
I'm
think you can
watching?
skip that one.
I have a 9 a.m. class tomorrow. I can't do that. That's impossible.
I was gonna say, even if I was unemployed, I don't think I'd be up to watch the MHL.
I'll,
I would catch the film the next day.
let me tell you, Telegram is a great place. Telegram, VK, video, spectacular places. My phone looks like I'm a drug dealer, but
Do they still post all their stuff on YouTube?
yes, actually, MHL
Okay.
does like the full games on YouTube, and I love them for that. The VHL, no, and KHL is a big fat no.
Yeah,
Obviously.
they're special, but at least the
Yeah.
MHL still makes it fairly accessible.
I compare the KHL to it's another wrestling thing just because I'm thinking about it. But I compare them to NJPW because NJPW in like the North America, any clip they will strike you down, hammer fist you if you even think about posting anything with a video
That's New
attached.
Japan, right?
Yep.
See, I
So,
know certain things about wrestling.
hey man, I'm not saying anything. Just slowly trying to incorporate it more because I got back into it when I was an adult. But all right,
Yeah.
let's do the actual part of this where we both have an interest, which is the Hurricanes prospects. We're gonna do NHL first, and the only one there currently is Jackson Blake, fourth line role, and I've loved him in that role. He had like Jack Drury is fine as a line mate. He's been really good this year, shockingly, or good at least. And then it's been a heavy rotation of people. He's looked really solid. He's showing a lot of the same like playmaking abilities that he had at UND, and it's nice to see it translating. Whenever he did that weird spin, I think it was in Vancouver. I think it was Tyler Myers too, the tall dude. He's excelling in roles that I'm happy that he's excelling in, even if they're not in like where I kind of want him, because I'm a little bit of a nerd in that way. Like, hey, give him a lot more time, and they are. They're giving him power play 1 minute with drivers out, and he looked the part last game, obviously.
Yeah, he's gaining confidence. You can kind of see it in the fact that he's trying new things. Like he tried that spin move against Vancouver, and he's trying to make more things happen. I think the underrated part about Blake's game that's always been there is his ability to find soft spots in the defensive coverage. Perfect example of that's his goal against
Where Jack Drury had
it
the
was
sick pass.
Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where he, yes, Jack Drury makes the incredible play, but Blake notices the defenseman immediately go chase the puck, and he just goes right to the front of the net. And it takes half a second for him to get to the spot where he needs to be and to make that decision. And so the fact that he's already doing stuff like that is really impressive.
Oh yeah, I love seeing that. Obviously, as a person, you probably did too, but as a person who got to watch a lot of his UND games, it's incredibly good that in his first year, like his rookie year, his skills are translating pretty good from the college level to the NHL without any AHL time whatsoever. I think that's sick. I like that a lot. You can't really complain about it. And I like I said, the power play role where he's in the bumper now, he does the exact same thing where he gets to the soft spot. It's kind of fun to just watch him kind of like roam around everybody, just waiting. And then as soon as he gets the puck, he's extremely creative and crafty in small areas, which is sick. I always love players that can do that. With Jackson Blake, though, what was going on there with you and Mr. J Fresh and his NHL, everybody's favorite, every prospect, scout, anything, favorite statistic, NHL E?
I refuse to answer any question on the grounds that my answer may incriminate me.
Hey man, I just thought that was
no,
so funny.
I regressed to a Matthew that existed before he was employed by an organization and decided to poke a little bit of fun at the fact that you cannot project with any certainty what an 18-year-old is going to be. You can hope and, you can say, well, this kid looks really good now. He's putting up a ton of points in high school, as Jackson Blake was. But at the end of the day, development is such a big factor, and there's so much externally that can go wrong. Bring up another Canes prospect, Ryan Suzuki has not had a healthy season since being drafted.
Man,
that's something you can't account for, though. You know, so like if Ryan Suzuki had, let's say, like a 75% on that chart, people would be looking at it like, well, Suzuki hasn't played an NHL game yet. All right.
Yeah.
But you can't factor in, like, there's no way to mathematically factor in random chance. And so that's why I just think it was like 1%, like really a 1% chance. And so that's just what, I remember I was like the gif with Ryan from The Office where he's just like silently writing in his pad. Like that was me the second that I saw that tweet on his draft day. So this has been 3 years in the making. But no, I have no hate. I think that, people like Jay Fresh do a really good job of trying to visualize and explain something that's very hard to do. And I think, that there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. Shout out to the Chicago Steel. I don't know if that's, but they have been incredible at developing over the past few years. Obviously, the Canes took three guys in the same draft class. I think it was the same draft class. There's something around that where they had 3 guys on the same Steel team, or that played
it was 2023. They took Perron and Emerson, who were both committed to UND, but had both played on the Steel.
I could have sworn there was one more, and I might have.
And Blake,
maybe it was, I think
Blake
that's what it was.
Blake was the third that was already at UND.
All 3 of them played together for 1 game, and then Emerson transferred out, and then went back to Steel. So, but yeah. Also, Ryan Suzuki. Okay, I got a bone. Maybe not a bone, but like
no. He was an example. I'm not saying that he's never gonna play.
No,
he was the example of random things you can't predict.
Yeah, last year I was happy with what he did with Springfield toward the end of the year because they started giving him more time and he looked good. Chicago this year is doing the same thing, and he still looks good in my eyes. If the Canes, in my opinion, obviously I might be biased because Canes prospects is in the name, but if the Canes didn't have 6 different guys that could play center on the 4th line, then I personally believe he would be in the NHL. But I also might be in the minority in that one. I don't know. The soft spot thing kind of caught my attention because I was corrected by Mr. Dylan Griffin on Twitter like a month ago talking about Nikita Artamonov, and I kind of said I thought his IQ kept improving because it was awesome to see him continuously just be behind a defender or just in the greatest spot of all time, and which he does at an exceptionally high rate. There is a really good example from the last goal he scored, his 13th goal of the year, to make that abundantly clear, 13 and 27. He just excels at getting into soft areas, and the shot quality is pretty evident because he's shooting, I want to say it's still 30% on the year. and he has 13 goals, and it's staying consistent so far in 27 games, or 28 now, I think, because I don't think Elite Prospects counted his game from today. But he is awesome. I will forever rave about the kid because it's very fun to watch a active forward checker who knows how to do it at 18 years old, and he does it at a decently high level. Obviously, Igor Larionov is giving him a lot of minutes. Maybe not a lot of minutes. He's getting top 6 minutes because Torpedo is incredibly funky with their lines. But he's been awesome. What do you say about the guy?
I think he is a very interesting player. The fact that he gets to the middle of the ice as somebody who's less than 6 feet tall is impressive. Like, yes, size does not matter. Like, players can play at any position. They can play wherever. Logan Stankoven's a perfect example. He's 5'9" on a good day, and he's leading all rookies in scoring and looking incredible doing it. Matvei Michkov, I don't believe is 6 feet tall. I could be wrong.
I
don't feel like looking it up, so people can fact check me on that all they want. I'm sure people have been itching for an excuse to fact check me.
5'10", so you're fine.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, he's sub 6 feet tall, and so Artamonov 5'11", but that's still impressive. So that's been the big thing. It really just seems like he's getting the opportunities and getting to the dirty areas. I still like the draft comparisons to a guy like Michael Bunting, because Michael Bunting got to the dirty areas.
Yeah. That was like, every time I saw Artamonov, I was like, this dude forechecks at a level that normally 18-year-olds don't do. And he just loves to get in corners and in board battles. He just loves it. I guess that'll be the first like prospect I'm happy about, because I did 3 profiles for 2024, and it was Haig, who went higher than I thought, Alec, who went lower than I thought, and wasn't even the first right-handed defenseman the Kings, I guess, looked at, because they took Badinka before him, and he obviously went after. And then Artamonov was the third one I did, and probably the one I was most happy with, because I was like, dang, this kid just exudes Kane's energy. I don't know how to describe it, but like, you watch him play and you're like, yeah, in a black jersey with that little NC logo hidden in the flag, you can just see it. It's kind of just awesome when that happens. I love it. I'm guessing that happened with you a lot.
Yeah, less so than you would think. I'm still waiting on Tuukka Tiexela to be a thing. Yeah.
I know where he's playing. Hold on. He's playing for Assad. Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
I think so, yeah. I want to say it was a team that a Hurricanes prospect led. Oh, it might be. Oh, God. You know what? It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at this point.
It's one of those Finnish league.
To my boy.
It's one of those Finnish league teams that I still accidentally have followed, and I just keep forgetting to unfollow. So I'm like, there's still a chance.
Welcome to my life. That's how it was.
Hey, the Portland Blackhawks are still there. So
I occasionally had those moments, like I'm gonna toot my own horn here. Like, the second Nikitin was drafted, I was like, how did a 6'4" defenseman that's 210 pounds had played KHL games in his draft year, how did he fall to the early third round? And I watched him, and I was like, I still don't know how this guy fell to the early third round. So I watched him some more, and then I was like, hey guys, like, this guy might be the best player we've drafted in 2020. And I really like Seth Jarvis. And, I think Jarvis has had a tough season to start. I don't think he's been quite as good as I think he would hope.
Yeah, obviously.
And I say that, and he's like on pace for like 56 points or something crazy.
It's so good, but
which is still like contracts. That's solid. No, I mean, part of it is he's been playing on our third line, and our third line is not an offensive driving line.
I think
Nikitin was the one where I was like probably the proudest of towards the end, because like, I hate to say, like it's great to yes, it's great to celebrate when you're right, but like I don't want to do that too much because there
Oh,
were 20 other times where I was dead wrong about a guy. And
yeah.
it could have even been about a guy that we didn't draft.
Mm.
You know, I remember writing a profile when I had my Patreon in 2019 saying that I don't think Trevor Zegras had the attitude or the makeup of an NHL player because I thought he was lazy. And he has one more NHL cover than I do, so
We
I think he wins that.
call that like a half cover because he did share that cover with Sarah Nurse.
Listen, that is still more NHL covers than I will ever be on.
They're just gonna one day. They're just gonna Kings prospecting is so big. We're just gonna be back to back, like 1 foot on the ground, 1 foot, and they're like combining in the middle with our arms crossed.
It's gonna be like a dual special edition.
Yeah, Nikishin. Obviously, that was your that might be the gem of all gems in regards to your tenure. That he went from. I mean, I still remember you getting severely pissed off because he was getting net front power play time, which I
Yeah.
mean, you're a defenseman, and I understand you're gigantic, but one of your best assets is your shot. What are we doing there? That was me. When was that? I went to Maine in March of this year, and I watched Scott Morrow play on the power play. One, I was like, yeah, and then he was on the front of the net, and I was like, oh, Ryan Ufko. All right. It was one of those things where I was like, I understand they're big bodied defensemen, but with Nikishin, his shot is amazing. With Scott Morrow, his playmaking is special. And it's like,
Well, and
what
with
are,
Nikishin
come on.
too, he had both. He had the shot and he was a good passer. Could not understand for the life of me why Moscow would put him in the front of the net.
Yeah.
Like, other than the fact that he's a tree trunk of a human being.
That is true. He's a gigantic. I guess we'll just that's a nice little segue into Nikishin talk. SKA won today. The 5-game losing streak is over. Finally. They beat, I would say, the second worst team in the KHL in Sibir. I think that's how a Siberia team, Sibir. They just dropped the. They just I don't know. They beat them in the shootout, and they beat them 1-0, and they scored one goal in the shootout. That was it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Alexander Nikishin barely scraped 20 minutes today.
Wow.
That it was, to be fair,
And that's including overtime too.
that yes. I personally I made the decision to go to the gym instead of watching SKA play today. Even though Timur Cole got called up again and Alexander Nikishin is Alexander Nikishin, they're on a 5-game losing streak, and I had no interest because they look bad. Timur Cole, and I made the right decision. Timur Cole didn't get a minute or a second of game time, and Alexander Nikishin played the lowest amount of time he has played this KHL season, and that is especially more intriguing when you consider he came back from injury and was slotted in as a 25-minute a night player. His play has been really weird, especially the game before this. He was downright bad, and he deserves to get benched, even though he is their captain and he's their number one defenseman. He just didn't look good, but obviously the kid is generational, and another, obviously the 69th pick is just beast in the first place. Got to make that clear.
Of course.
It's been a very weird season, and I think that's mainly because SKA rushed him back really early. They just like faltered in their first 2 games, and they're like, "Oh crap, we really can't do this," especially after spending KHL record money on Evgeny Kuznetsov and spending even more money to get Nikita Zaitsev, and then a month later spending even more money to get Tony DeAngelo. And to be fair, I will give DeAngelo all the credit in the world. He had a really good start, and now he has not had a really good middle portion. He's also started to look bad. The issue is, for SKA, Rotenberg is starting to rely on him as their number one guy. I think he played 25 minutes today, which, if you're relying on Tony DeAngelo to be your number one defenseman and you're supposed to be the top team in the KHL, and you're not, and also to all the Montreal people that might listen to this, and Ivan Demidov is getting fourth line minutes. Even I love the kid. That seemed like an issue, and we've had conversations about this because I think we both understand our feelings about Mr. Roman Rotenberg. He got me an incredible grade on a paper about Russian. That was the most interesting thing. I wrote a paper about Russian government and hockey. And it was the big two things I wrote about was Fedotov and CSKA and Roman Rotenberg getting the SKA job. And my teacher looked at me like, really? This is happening? I was like,
and it sounds so weird to the outside world. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I can say on that, I mean, and you look at Nikishin's numbers this year and it reflects it, right? They've just taken a complete 180 from what worked.
yeah.
You have the guy that set the record,
third and fourth most all-time defenseman,
right, for your team,
yep,
for scoring by a defenseman,
yep,
and broke his own record the next year.
yep.
And you're like, nah, we don't want any of that anymore.
Yeah, we're
gonna have this guy do none of that.
We're gonna put him on the boards on power play 1.
And I can't say much more because Nikishin's gonna be great. He's gonna be great. He's gonna be a great NHL defenseman, and I think you're allowed to have bad games. I'll say that again because we're gonna use this as a soundbite for when Canes fans get mad at one bad game. You're allowed to have bad games. Nikishin, it's unheard of for a player his age to be as dominant at his position in that league. Like, not unheard of. It's very rare.
Yeah.
The most recent example is Kirill Kaprizov.
Yep.
Artemi Panarin was great, but he was also like 26 when he signed. Now Nikishin's going to be 24 by the time next season starts.
Yeah.
But
hey, didn't you hear Frank Zarafoli said he might come over for the playoffs, Matt? Didn't you hear it?
I did.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me.
What have we said for the
Well, I mean,
what have we said for 18 months?
Now in Frank's credit, the tweet was that, the line, as I used to say, was that he could not sign until May 1st.
31st now, but continue.
Which is just a general time of saying, like, hey, this is when the KHL season ends, this is when the contract ends.
Yep.
Of course he could have signed earlier, but, like, I'm not giving people an exact date.
No, we can't. It's physically impossible.
Yeah. So I think that, with Nikishin, the last thing I'll say on him, because I can talk all day, is he's going to be fine. There are going to be some growing pains because he's been playing at least most of his games on Olympic ice. So I think his game will be better suited for smaller ice because there's going to be a lot less space for people to hide from him. But I also think offensively, there's gonna be some bumps early on.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm happy that he's going to go into a room with veterans like Gosh Despair. He's going to be able to help a lot with like power play talk and like kind of explain like the good things to do because Nikishin's going to run a power play. It's not a matter of if, it is going to be when he does it. And eventually he's going to get Unit 1, and he is going to probably succeed in that role because the kid has one of the greatest slappers I've ever, like, genuinely, it's unbelievable. And when you have a 21-year-old and a 22-year-old doing just special scoring seasons in a senior hockey league, it's hard to not be like, all right, this kid might be, like, really, really good. So now let's segue off a rant to another rant. Let's go to Igor Velmakin. My boy.
I'll let you just take it away. I really don't know much about him other than what I've seen in the camps.
So first up, the kid has one of the most fun personalities he's a fun guy, and I think people have seen that. He's just a bubbly dude. He was always smiling anytime I saw him. We got on such nice terms because I kept talking with him every day because he kept looking for me. That anytime he would go on the ice and look into the stands, he would see me and he would just point at me and just nod his head. And I was like, "Thanks, man. That's cool." But he endeared himself to me, and I want to make sure that he succeeds. And I was like, okay, let's see what he does in the KHL because his bold claim was, I want to be the next Pyotr Kochetkov, but better. And I was like, okay, sure, that's cool. Be a nice little clip to put on Twitter. Maybe it'll get a few hundred likes. That'd be fun. But he goes back to Minsk, and in the preseason, they were letting him get a good amount of run as like their number one guy, and maybe it was just because it was preseason, but he was putting up good games. He was doing a lot of things that I was like, okay, this is good. This is positive growth from his last season where he only played in 8 KHL games and looked and then 7 Belarus League games and he looked And then this year he got in late against Lokomotiv because their starting goalie sucked. And he had 16 saves in the third period. And Minsk made it a close game. He went against Severstal and everybody's favorite, Vladimir Grudinin. It's not Vlad. Vladimir does not shorten to Vlad, as I've been told. Thank you, Mr. Russian Prospects on Twitter. Nice guy. He had 37 saves out of 39 shots and lost in a shootout. And recently he got his first KHL win, only giving up a goal, but Minsk had to go to overtime to beat, I honestly cannot remember, which is kind of sucked because it was a recent game. My memory is shot. But going into the year, I was like, okay, with Kolosov gone, because he finally moved after the whole saga, finally left Minsk to go to the Philadelphia Flyers. And then I was like, he might get more playing time. And he was consistently the backup. And then their starting goalie, Andrei Karev, got hurt. And I was like, okay, they don't have any other goalies. It's his time to shine. Immediately, they sign another guy and have him start before Velmakin starts again. And I'm like, all right, that's just great. He then goes on has a few nice games. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe we could do something with this. And now Karev's about to come back. He's already activated. I think he's activated from injury reserve already. Their other guy played today and lost. I want to make that abundantly clear. He lost. They had to go to overtime. But like this year, in one less game played from last year in the KHL, he has a 2.22 goals against and a .925 save percentage. And those are against halfway decent teams. Like I'm seeing Lokomotiv, and the team he beat was Salavat, who has former Hurricane Josh Lievo. Severstal, Dynamo Minsk, and then 2 games against Boris. But my whole thing is that he looks good in these starts. He's putting up good numbers, and you're consistently going over him. And now the other guy's about to come back, so he's about to get less playing time. And if Kolosov doesn't really think there's a chance he's going to play a lot more games in Philly when all their goalies get healthy, he can go back if he wants to. And it's like, all right, what? There's no point in making him go back to Belarus when he's proving he's probably a KHL level goalie right now. And that pisses me off, and I've ranted about it a lot. And I will continue to rant about it until something happens. But I will also give Minsk credit. They did not have to let him come over to training camp or development camp. And they did. They asked him if he wanted to go, and he went, and I thought that was good. But yeah, that was my whole Velmakin thing. I like a lot what I see. I think he can be a halfway decent goalie, but without development time, and when he looked good, it just pisses me off.
And I think the thing to bring up with that is that there's no timeline for him. Like, you do not have a deadline to sign him.
No.
So just let him play. You know, I mean, I think that, it took Pyotr Kochetkov was one of the better Russian junior goalies, and he didn't even get consistent playing time in the KHL until he was just about to come over.
Oh, I'm about to hold on, because I want to say I actually used a Kochetkov example recently.
I was going to say, because I remember He got traded to Torpedo.
Yes, he did.
And was great. Helped them make the playoffs. And then they didn't play him for like a month to start the next season.
I want to say that's Oh yeah, because I have it pulled up. 21, he played 6 games with Torpedo in the regular season, and then 2 playoff games, and he had unbelievable stats. Yep. And then the next season, where you would think he'd get a lot more game time, he has 23 games played, but also put up basically the same exact stats. I think it's fun.
He was great.
Yeah, he was.
That's the thing is, with goalies in general, it's just weird. They're very hard position to project. Anyways, that's the thing I wanted to add there. I have nothing more to really add.
And then just one more thing about Russian goalies, just because I'm very impressed by it. Ruslan Kazayev looking not good in his ECHL start, and then looking actually good in my eyes in his 3 AHL starts. Kind of cool. I think he should get playing time. But goalies are fun. And I'm quickly learning they might be my least favorite position to scout. It's just
they're most people's least favorite position to scout.
And it's worse because I played goalie for like 3, 4, 5 years as a kid. And I'm like, okay, I should probably know a few, like I feel as if I know a few more things. Don't at all. I would guess on a goalie and be like, okay, Nikita Kwap, he looked pretty decent in the World Junior, and he's looked pretty decent anytime I've seen him in person. But then you go back to the DEL and you're still struggling. But goalies are a thing. But yeah, Kazayev has been cool. His game against Milwaukee, even though they lost, like I want to say half of their shots were high danger, and he only gave up 2 goals. So I give him credit.
He's looking good.
All right. Where am I? Oh God. See, this is, again, new. I'm not used to hosting. I'm used to being the other person. So it still takes me a minute to figure things out. I guess because I only got that and then one other person. The Wolves stuff. I just put Wolves stuff because I kind of just wanted to mention that, like, this weekend's game against those 2 games against the Admirals, that looked as close as humanly possible to, like, 2020 through, like, 2022 Carolina Hurricanes, where they were called the Corsi Canes. They would just get shots on net, and they did not care where they came from.
Yeah.
But also, coincidentally, in my eyes, those look like their best 2 performances they've had so far. And I keep explaining to people, and I keep explaining to myself also, that this is a team that had basically no roster until like 4 days before they had to play their first regular season game. They had no preseason, and a lot of it was just a whole new thing. It was like everything's new. So I kind of always assumed it was going to take a while, and I felt like Saturday, Sunday was kind of the turning point of like, hey, maybe there's something there, because they beat Milwaukee. That's a big thing. Yeah. Like, they're a good team.
Yeah, Milwaukee's great. They've got a really good core. You have to also think there's a new coach too.
Yeah.
And, while Cam Abbott, and you can see, plays the same style as the Hurricanes, it's different. It's different for a lot of these guys. There's a lot of players on that roster. Nadeau, Cherkasov. Why can't I think of the other people's name? Unger Sorum, etc. They have not played AHL hockey before.
Nope.
And so, there's a learning curve there. Like Bradley Nadeau is going to be a good player. Mm-hmm. And you have to remember, he's also 19 years old.
Yeah.
Playing pro hockey. Like, that's...
Yeah, Felix is crazy. Like barely scraping. He turned 19 a month ago, and he's trying to learn center.
And it has not worked out. Super great. He has 1 assist in 9 games, and Bradley Nadeau has 3 points in 9 games. Like, both of them are struggling a little bit to start the year.
Yeah.
But you also have to keep in mind they're very new to this, and they're young. And this Wolves team in general is very young.
It's super. I think if you take out Lemieux and Martin, the average age might be like 24, 25. It would be...
It's probably closer to 22, I would say.
Yeah,
It is a young roster.
Yeah, but I think they're finally, which is, I mean, I understand people have reserves about using the AHL as like a developmental league, but I think there just needs to be a good balance. Without a good balance, you're kind of screwed. You need to have that balance, and the Wolves and the Hurricanes mainly decided this year was going to be.
Sorry, my cat decided it was time to knock the PlayStation controller off of the couch.
I was like, oh my god, the interns are getting unruly.
Yeah, she had a brief thought into her brain, and she didn't know what that was, and so she panicked.
With the Wolves, I've liked how Nadeau's played. He's been a penalty killer. I'm very shocked, but I'm also Spyros. I still cannot pronounce his last name. I just know his
Spyros
first name.
Anastas.
See, he's got it perfectly.
He's a good Greek boy.
Yes, he is. His penalty kill philosophy is extremely intriguing. I think in one game you will see at least 10 forwards and all 6 defensemen play on the penalty kill. They rotate a lot. I've seen Nadeau kill penalties. Scott Morrow is a penalty killer. Unger Sorum has been killing penalties. Everybody has been killing penalties, except for Gleb. Gleb has not been killing penalties. Gleb has also not been getting a lot of game time. But yeah, that might have been. That's my first like big major that I've had, is that I was like, hey, this is a thing that could happen, and then somebody got really mad at me. And I was like, all right, that's fun. But
it happens.
Big thing. Charles-Alexis Legault for the Wolves as well. He's been their number 1 penalty killer, I think. He's been the first guy over the boards. He's been like my most awesome, maybe not awesome, but like most impressive that I've seen recently. I really liked him in his senior season at Quinnipiac. His offense developed how it should, and his defense has always been awesome. And he has fully like blossomed and getting like the big outbursts of like, all right, this guy could probably be an NHL player in the near future, because he just looks so steady out there. Him and Dominic Fensore, one of your favorites, still, and is one of my favorites. Let's make that abundantly clear. They've been a pair since the development camp like showcase. And they have looked really, really good as a pair, and they've stuck with it in Chicago, and it's working. And I've been a huge fan of Charles-Alexis Legault, and his play so far early in the AHL season has been very good to see from a development standpoint.
This is where I come in here and
oh god,
flex the BCHL here a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So. No, and I've been on the record saying this many times. It's my favorite 3-word phrase. Development isn't linear. It is not.
I'm going to get that tatted right there.
Yeah, it'll be right across my arm.
Development is
every time we sign a player with Coquitlam, I'll be like, hey. Boom. No, but development's not linear. Like, taking a look at him, he signed with Muskegon in the USHL during the 2019-20 season. That was 4 years ago. So he was like 16, 17 years old at that time.
Yeah.
Played 23 games the next year with Lincoln in the USHL. Decided to leave the next year for West Kelowna in the BCHL. And West Kelowna's always a good team. He didn't have like that impressive of a year. That was his draft year, right?
Yeah. I think maybe. Yes. Yeah.
No.
Dude, now you're getting me confused.
Wait.
I want to say his draft year was his freshman year at Quinnipiac. This is another thing that I probably should know off the top of my head, but his draft year was 23, so it was actually his sophomore season at Quinnipiac.
Well, no, but he's an overager. Hold on.
Am I losing my mind?
Some math here. His first year of draft eligibility was 2021.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And that's when he was with Lincoln. He was one of the youngest players in that draft class. His birthday is September 5th. So if he was born 11 days later, he would have been a part of the 22 draft class. Passed over in 2 drafts. Goes to Quinnipiac as, a guy that is just kind of trying to earn a role after an okay season with West Kelowna. And then has a good enough year to where the Hurricanes are like, hey, let's take a chance on this kid in the 6th round. They picked him, or 5th round, excuse me. And at that point, you're just kind of hoping to get like pro games from the player. With your picks later in the draft, like you obviously hope that they turn into something, but more often than not, they're not. A year after the kid gets drafted, he's signing an NHL contract at 21 years old. So that's outstanding. The fact that he's able to show that much growth in that short period of time and immediately step into an AHL lineup and have the responsibilities that he's had, that's really impressive. Like, there's no one correct path. Not every player is going to be a Macklin Celebrini where they can step into an NHL lineup right away, right?
Yeah.
We've even seen it with Felix this year. Felix Unger-Sorum has looked great in 2 straight preseasons and is kind of struggling in the AHL right now.
Yeah.
So I think that, it just shows, again, development's not linear.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think this is also where I get to flex that whenever I talked with Legault about his Quinnipiac experience, because I asked him, what was the most, like, what would you say you learned the most while you were there? Because that was one of the things that intrigued me was like his year-to-year growth from Quinnipiac. He went from like complete, they wanted to use him as a shutdown guy to, a guy they're completely fine with, like using an even strength. And I think, want to say once or twice he played a power play. Don't even try and quote me on it, but he had a very nice point streak. He looked really good, and he was very complimentary of the culture, and specifically he came in and Joe Dumais was his defensive coach there, and he gave him that role, and he credits Dumais with a lot of the work that he put in and how he developed into the player that he is. And I think that's cool. I also respect Quinnipiac because they are an incredibly good consistently, except for this year. They've been a little struggle. But then again, you graduate Colin Graff, Yaniv Peretz, Charles-Alexis Legault, somebody else that I'm forgetting, a lot of guys I'm probably forgetting. But you graduate a lot of these guys, it's hard to replace them with talent. It'll still crack me up forever that Legault's favorite player is Ryan Suter, who is still playing games today.
Yeah, I mean, most like players drafted from like 2016 to like now, their favorite player to watch growing up was Patrick Kane, who is still playing hockey.
Him and Crosby, yeah, the
right.
big two.
Like it hurts.
Yeah,
it hurts.
It was I remember that very vividly because I have on voice recording, it was Unger Sorum and Gunler, and they were just laughing. They were just laughing really hard because they heard Ryan Suter and favorite player, and Legault just looked so like, he was like, why? I like the guy.
And then their favorite player, is probably the Sedins.
Oh God, again, I did the stupid Unger Sorum one, and he said his favorite player, and I want to say, why do I want to say it was Forsberg?
Like Philip Forsberg? Because that would also make
Yes.
sense.
I was right. It is Philip Forsberg.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. Probably more recent, too, so, I get that.
That one kind of hurt me as well. But
yeah,
he's not even that old.
Yeah,
He's fine.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. All right. Last player I wanted to touch on today because I like the kid, but his injury history is starting to kind of spook me, is Alexander Rykov. Another, just a lot of Russians because the Canes like drafting Russians ever since they hired Oleg Smirnov, and I salute my guy. He's a very nice human being. He's very informative with a lot of stuff that he posts from time to time. It's not very active, and people love that interview he did with Sport Express, where he explained his draft philosophy and like what he would look for specifically in players. Nice guy. He. Why did I even go on that? Oh my god. Rykov is really fun. I think because he played in KHL games just last year, and he played in a lot. And he had a Cy Young season, basically. He was 6 goals, 2 assists. And he was playing consistent game time. I think it was around third line minutes, so it wasn't anything special. But he was doing really well in those minutes. And the thing in his draft year that stood out was his ability to just get another one of those guys that gets in dirty areas, that forechecks, that excels in board battles. But he was training with Tractor to start the season. Preseason, he was with Tractor all through camp. Right before camp starts, injury. Hurts my heart. Because I would think he would probably get a spot on that Tractor team. But now Tractor is one of the best teams in the KHL, so probably it might not have happened. They're a very good team. He goes to he went to Bellier first. He went to the NHL lineup first. He played 1 game and immediately got called up to Chelmet, where he spent most of his time now. He has 9 points in 12 games. The issue is he's already been hurt twice this year. He got hurt what seems to be a few days ago. He last played last Friday, and he has not been spotted in the lineup at all. And he went from first line to third line to out, which is the exact way he went out of the lineup last time. He had an injury from October 2nd to the 19th, which took him out of action. And obviously he didn't start the KHL season at normal time. He didn't start until late September. So he's already had 2 big injuries, which sucks because he has been a very fun player and I want to see him healthy, but now there's a lot of injuries and he got hurt last year too. So it's just a not good time for injuries for the young man.
I think he was hurt in his draft year too.
Oh my God.
The fact of the matter is, though, he's already said that he wants to come play in North America next year.
Did I miss that?
I remember him saying this right after he was drafted.
Holy cow! I definitely missed that.
In his draft interview, he was like, "Yeah, as soon as my contract's up, I'm over here."
Oh, you'll never guess.
So that could also be that could very well be the reason why he's not in the KHL right now.
Because his contract is up this year.
Yep. And I wouldn't hate it. I think he could play at this level. I really do.
I mean, everything you've said it earlier. I've said it a few times around, but anytime you get a 17 or 18-year-old player or 19-year-old even, like anytime you're under a certain age, like I would kind of classify as like 20, like 20 is kind of like the upper end. But like if you're under 20 years old and you have a good amount of KHL games under your belt and you're staying in that league and you're doing well in that league, already impressive. And the kid has about 30 games already logged. Yeah, 29. No, he played before. Never mind. But he's 19 and he has I don't want to do math, 35, I think. But
he has a good amount of NHL games under his belt, for sure.
KHL, excuse you.
Yes, that's what it is.
It's all right. But yeah, I like him. The injuries are very worrying at this point. But maybe he's not even injured. Maybe he's just whatever Ilya Ryabkin, Ivan Ryabkin. Dear God, now I'm getting confused.
I was going to say, there's a lot of Russians we've talked about.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel as if that's kind of just all they do. Maybe not all they do, but, you know, I watch, I could confidently say I watch a Russian game every day at this point, no matter what, which is definitely telling as a kid who's learning Russian, and you'll pick up on certain words and you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that. And then they'll just keep going. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah,
they won't stop for the American listeners.
Just like, yeah, I'm trying to translate this. Hold on. But no, yeah, I like Rykov a lot. It's just, I need him to stay healthy. And I did not realize that he said that. And I will trust you because he was the draft year. Yeah, you did 2023.
Yeah, that was my last hurrah.
Yeah, you had a big long speech and then came back 3 weeks later when I was out of town.
I know. I came back for the dev camp or something. It made me laugh.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know what I was doing, but yeah.
At this point, it all blurs together for me.
Yeah. Every day is just me checking Flash score and being like, all right, who's playing today? What time do I need to look at this? All right, cool.
I
And
remember those days.
I'll remember them. Yeah, buddy. I'm living them, and they're fun. But
Get
Lord,
ready to learn Flash score, buddy.
I don't even remember who told me that. I want to say it was probably you that told me Flash Score is a very helpful tool. And my God, is that helpful.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll get on them about is that, and I understand it's probably the leagues thing, but like they don't do time on ice for anything outside of KHL or like their senior leagues. Like Hockey Allsvenskan doesn't. Nope.
A lot of leagues don't have public time on ice tracking.
Well, it's weird because then
AHL.
Yeah. Oh my! Don't even get me started. AHL, that pisses me off to no. That and face-off stats in the AHL, they don't do that either. Why? It's so easy. Maybe not. Well, actually, no. I'd say it is easy to do face-off stats.
I think it depends on there are certain teams that I'm sure have the resources that could do it.
Yeah.
But like there are other teams where like the broadcast quality just isn't good enough to have.
I mean,
incredible time on ice tracking.
It's annoying because it's like, man, that's something that like you are the second big league in North America. Like, you gotta do that. Yeah,
it'll get there eventually.
That was me with the Wolves. I remember watching, like, first starting to watch them in 22 or 21, whenever I was still working with Cardiac Kane doing that stuff. They just didn't even tweet out lines. They just said, "Hey guys, we're playing today."
Oh, the Wolves, yeah,
that's kind of awesome. Yeah. All right. That was all the players I wanted to cover. And it's been over an hour. It's been too long already.
Did we say 30 minutes?
30? Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, if we're trying to do this, if I completely stop after further review, it will shorten it, definitely. But an hour is definitely a lot. But it was also the first episode. So, it's all good. Well, first time I'm hosting, first time we've spoken face-to-face since development camp. So, it's just one of those things. Yeah, this is Developing Hurricanes. Obviously, we are still developing in that regard. It's been very fun. Hopefully this becomes a somewhat regular thing. I will force Matt to do it if he can, obviously. And hopefully people like it. Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Of course.
All right.